Someone out in the street. Eretz Yisroel is Paltak Shal Melech. Zeh l'uma zeh asa ha'elokim. That's what we see today in Eretz Yisroel. And you should know it's not only Israelis. You go to Eretz Yisroel, you know most of Eretz Yisroel are people who came to Eretz Yisroel in the last generation. And from a Yidden who in Chutz La'aretz didn't have the intensity, in Eretz Yisrael, there's zeicha to a greater intensity in Avodas Hashem. And I'm not talking about the politics of it. I'm talking about the simple, everyday lifestyle. And there are people who go and try to open settlements of Americans. It should be more without the kanois. You wait a generation and it's there. The fire is there. It burns. It's a fire for Avodas Hashem. What about us in Chutz La'aretz? So I'd like to talk about Zelu Mazeh Asa Alekim. In Brooklyn, or on Long Island, or in New York City, wherever you're from, there's a very important message. In Zelu Mazeh Asa Alekim. I'm a little nervous to talk about it, but it's negea to all of us. I don't mean anything political. I mean lemaisa for us. You know, some people speak and they say, Chas v'shalom, I'm not talking to anybody here. You know, I'm talking to everyone else. I'm telling you, I'm talking to everybody here. I'm not talking to anybody else, but there's a certain message that we could use. And America prides itself in being a land of tolerance. Everyone likes to be in the middle of the road. That's the style. A liberal is no good, to a conservative is no good. You want to be middle of the road. It's a little safer. You go, you drive that way too. The middle of the road is the safest spot. What does that lead to? So it leads to the following. You go over to a Reform spokesman, the Reform Judaism, so they tell you, we're the middle of the road. On the one hand, there's the non-committed Jew. On the other hand, there's the conservative and the Orthodox. And we're in the middle. That's their whole schus, they're the middle. No. You ever listen to Rabbi Schindler speak, the conservative movement? I don't recommend it, but if you ever hear him speak, same thing. He says the same thing. He's Reformed, but he says the same speech. He says, we're the middle of the road. The conservative feel the same way. Reform is on one side and Orthodox on the other side. Conservative, they're the middle, right? The so-called three branches. Conservative is smack in the middle. They feel safe. No, you go weiter. Chas v'shalom, I don't mean to compare. But you go now to the so-called, and I'm only using labels, the so-called centrist Orthodox. They tell you right away, this is the best place, smack in the middle. On the one hand, you have Fruma Yid and the Charedim, who overdo everything. The other hand, you have the Reform and the Conservative, who don't do it. We're smack in the middle. And I'm not making this up. You look into the way the Shittas are written. This is exactly how it's written. We're in the middle. We're comfortable. You move over a little more. You think about Bnei Yeshiva. So how does a Ben Yeshiva think? Look, on the one hand, you have the modern Orthodox, a little too makel. You have the Chassidim, who are very machmir. The Bnei Yeshiva was smack in the middle, just the most comfortable spot, right in the right spot. And I'm telling you, you go over to Chassidim, the more moderate Chassidus, they'll tell you the same thing, because they're not Gairis, the more modern Orthodox. So they hold, they're smack in the middle. You have on one hand the satmar, the Gar Stark. The other hand, you have the Yeshiva-lite, who dress like Americans. They're in the middle. It's so comfortable. So who's the only honest people left? The satmar. They don't say they're in the middle. Nobody says. Satmar doesn't say they're in the middle. Satmar will tell you. They're at the edges. Eida hacharedis. The truth is, there's a certain sakana in feeling that you're a centrist Jew. And I don't mean any political party. I mean us. This way of thinking, which is an American way of thinking, it's not a true. Zelu mazeh. There's a balance. On the one hand, there's Ra. On the other hand, there's Toiv. For someone to be a centrist halfway between Ra and Toiv is a mistake. A person has to, you have to stand up for what you believe in. You have to be kulei Toiv. Nobody likes extremism. But you ask somebody if he wants to be extremely wealthy, he likes extremism. Extremely healthy, that's fine. Extremely good is fine also. There was a letter printed in an Orthodox newspaper called Marzike Hadas. This came out roughly 100 years ago. And the title of the letter was Yamin Usmoil, the right wing and the left wing. And the author wrote a chakira. The chakira was, is there such a thing as right-wing Judaism and left-wing Judaism? That was his chakira. So in his article, he came to the conclusion, yes, right-wing Judaism are the tzaddikim who detach themselves from Olam Hazeh, nothing to do with Olam Hazeh. That's right-wing Judaism. Left-wing Judaism are the Rishoyim, who are right of Olam Hazeh. Centrist Judaism are the people who are, like we call, normal. Not too from, not too fry, smack in the middle. This was the letter. The Nitziv wrote this was an article which the Nitziv responded to in a letter to the editor. Now, Rav Naftali Tzvi Berlin was the Rosh Hashiva